everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Jen. I'm excited to share with you another incredible flow. So one of the questions I get a lot is hips. My hips are tight, my back's tight. What can I do about that? So what I'm going to do today is run you through one of my favorite flows for hip tightness, hip pain, just kind of opening up that whole hip girdle. So if you have yoga blocks, go ahead and place them towards the front of your mat. If you don't, it's okay. If you know that you have tight quads and hip flexors and you have a yoga strap, you can go ahead and grab that. If you don't have a yoga strap, the rope off of your robe would work really well. Just something simple like that, like a nice little strap. If you don't have one, that's absolutely okay. I'll give you modifications as we go through the class. Again, if you want to grab some of these, if you're going to be doing these practices regularly at home, you can grab them on Amazon really simply. You can check the link down below for some of the ones that I recommend. So before we start, I always like to grab an essential oil. Today I've chose Citrus Bliss, the Invigorating Blend. It's a blend of citrus and mints, and it's just really uplifting. So before we dive in, I'm going to take a drop or two into my hand, place that oil off to the side, rub my hands together, and just take a few breaths. So if you don't have an essential oil, just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. I like to take breaths with big inhale through my nose and then just open my mouth, sigh it out to begin my practice. And after that, I'm going to rub that essential oil into my neck. And we're going to begin in child's pose. So for child's pose, you'll hear your teacher say, bring your knees as wide as your mat or hips width distance. What we'll do is really I want you to think about your feet, your big toes are touching, and your knees come a little bit wider than your hips. When we go into child's pose, you'll see people do more narrow with their hips or really wide with their hips. The wider you go with the hips, the knees, the more will open your hips. But find a comfortable position. The ultimate goal is that you can find a connection between your sit bones and your heels and keep that connection as you fold forward in child's pose. Now, if you struggle with that, using a pillow or a blanket works really well. You can take that and place that beneath your sit bones to connect your hips and your heels. And then from there, you'll begin to walk forward. Your arms reach out long. Your forehead comes down to the mat. Another limitation that some people have is that their head can't quite meet the mat. You can take a block or a pillow at that point and place it under your forehead. So another great option. So finding your comfort in your child's pose and letting your arms relax, your head relax, your shoulders relax. Let your hips sink deep and take a big inhale through your nose. Again, open your mouth and sigh it out. One more time, just like that. Big inhale. And exhale it out. We'll seal our lips and begin our Ujjayi breath, our yogic breath. That's a basic inhale and exhale through our nose of equal length. So when you're first starting, it's nice to inhale for a count of 4 and then exhale for a count of 4. And do that through your nose. One day maybe creating a slight constriction in the back of your throat, igniting that more audible breath you might hear in yoga. 2 more breaths here just to sink in. Last round of breath. And on your inhale, I want you to lengthen through your arms, plant firmly through your hands, lifting up. We're going to keep our toes connected, keep our knees on the ground, and begin to drop our hips towards the ground. Our gaze can lift up. From here, look over your left shoulder, drop your right hip to the ground. Come back to center, take to the other side. Come back to center, take a big inhale. And exhale back to child's pose. Inhale, back up you go. One more time, exhale down. Inhale, lift. And then exhale, come back to table pose. So we'll come to our first table of our class. Warming up our wrists just before we get started, making sure your fingertips are open wide, shifting side to side. You're pushing through the ball mound of your hand and your fingers, not all the weight in your wrist. After you go side to side a few times, shift forward and back. And now draw some circles. A lot of times people will complain about wrist pain with yoga. Go ahead and switch direction of your circles. And that's mainly because we're not engaging our hands. We want our hands and our arms to be active. So coming back to neutral, let's tuck our toes and we're gonna make our way back to our first downward facing dog. Lifting our hips, bringing our chest and abdominals to connect to our thighs, keeping a deep bend in our knees. Our heels are nice and high. Our gaze is through our big toes. Pushing firmly through the arms, lifting through the shoulders. From here, I want you to focus on lifting your sit bones to the ceiling, keeping the bend in your knees. Our legs are not that warmed up yet. We're gonna lift together, slowly start to straighten through our legs. Maybe yours straighten, maybe they don't. What I want you to avoid is as they straighten, does your back round? Okay, then I want you to bend back into your knees. So I'd rather you have a big bend in your knees and a long spine with your sit bones lifting to the ceiling than straight legs. From here, you can let your heels start to sink towards the ground. So ultimately, one day your heels will be on the ground, your legs will be long, your spine will be long, but that takes time. So keep a bend in your knees and just enjoy this opening through the legs, through the back, through the hips. Begin to pedal your feet out one side at a time, feeling the length in the calves, in the hamstrings, keeping active engagement in both hands. Coming back to stillness after you even out the body, and we're gonna inhale, look forward. From here, I want you to come up on your toes and I want you to tiptoe up to the top of your mat. Maybe you do it with straight legs, maybe you have a bend in your knees. Make it to the top of your mat so your feet are right below your wrists, and then deep bend in your knees, let your abdominals connect to your thighs. If you feel okay here, you can grab opposite elbows and just let your head hang heavy. Keep breathing. Maybe sway side to side. And then we'll release our hands. If you have tight hamstrings, you'll take one of your blocks and place it under your nose. If you don't have a block, that's okay. You're just gonna not maybe be able to reach the floor, really have to bend your knees. Either way. So if you have those tight hamstrings, you can put the block on any of the levels that work for you. You're gonna place your left hand on the block and bend your left knee. From here, inhale your right hand high to the sky. Gaze follows your right hand. If that's too much on your neck, keep your gaze down towards the ground. Try to straighten your right leg and reach high with that right hand. So little to no weight in that left hand. It's just there as a little bit of a support. It's like someone's lifting you up from your right hand. Keep breathing here. Last inhale. And then exhale, release it down. We're gonna switch hands. So the right hand's gonna come in, the right knee is going to bend, and then we're going to inhale the left hand high to the sky. Maybe the gaze reaches up for the left hand, maybe it stays down to the ground, depending on how your neck feels. You'll straighten through the left leg, feel the opening in the left hip, at left outer thigh. Lift through that left hand, breathing here. Last inhale. And then exhale, release it down. If you use that block, place it off to the side. Inhale, we'll halfway lift. We'll bring our fingertips to our shins. Our chin is tucked. A mistake here is a lot of times we're lifting up through our gaze, looking forward. Look down at the ground, right below your nose. Long spine, sit bones moving behind you. Find another inhale here. Exhale, release down. Inhale, reverse swan dive, hands reach up overhead, long spine, gaze follows. Exhale, hands to heart center. From here, inhale those hands back up overhead. You're going to release your right hand down towards the ground and reach up with your left hand. Side body stretch. So I'll turn to you so you can see what that looks like. You're reaching, reaching, reaching with that left hand. Next inhale brings you back to center. Exhale, switching sides. Inhale brings you back to center. And then exhale, let's swan dive all the way forward, gentle bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, find length and space. Exhale, plant your palms and step it back to the top of a plank. Always option to drop to your knees here or stay lifted. Let's inhale, shift forward. We're gonna lower all the way to our bellies. From here, forehead or chin to the mat, lengthen through your left leg, lengthen through your right leg. On an inhale, squeeze your elbows together, baby cobra. Your gaze is down at your mat. Tailbone is tucked under. Thighs are engaged, kneecaps are lifted, toes are pushing into the mat. Last inhale, exhale, lower. Tuck your toes. Inhale, push up back to the top of a push-up or through a table, and we'll make our way back to downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here again. Maybe you take some movements, maybe you find some stillness. Remember, we're moving our sit bones towards the ceiling, actively engaging through our arms and our hands. Breathe in here. From here, inhale, look forward. Exhale, tiptoe those hands to the feet to the hands again. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Plant your left hand. Inhale, right hand lifts high. Exhale, we fold back forward. Inhale, left hand lifts high. Exhale, we fold back forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead, gaze follows. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, reach those hands up overhead. Exhale, right hand releases, left lifts up. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, we switch sides. Inhale, center. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift, find length and space. Exhale, plant your palms, step it back. Option to drop to the knees or stay lifted. Option to lower all the way to the ground and do cobra again, or you can lower halfway. Inhale, upward facing dog. This time the thighs stay off of the mat. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. From here, let's get a little deeper into the hips. Let's inhale the right leg high to the sky, and we're gonna stack the right hip on top of the left. Tendency here, you can bend the knees to make it easier, bend the right knee. Tendency here is to bring all the weight into the left hand. Keep the weight even in your hands and really open up through the hip. You should feel a stretch in the front of the right hip. From here, let's draw big, big, big circles with our knees. As big as you can with that right knee. Draw a circle. One more in that direction. And then switch directions. And now let's go ahead and inhale that leg high, square the hips off. Exhale, step that foot between your hands, drop to your back knee. Always option to put a pillow or a blanket under your knee if you need it. And we're going to bring our hands to our hips. Draw your navel in and begin to shift forward. So the tendency here, and what I don't want to see is this, where you're dumping into your low back. I really want you to be drawn in and protect your low spine. Shift forward from there. From here, we're going to take our hands up overhead, only if that feels okay. Reach, reach, reach. And just like we did in standing, release your right hand down towards the ground. You can always take a block under your hand and then lift and lengthen through that left arm. Maybe your gaze comes under that left shoulder. Feel the stretch through the whole front side of the left hip. Inhale, we come back up to center. Exhale, we're going to reach for our blocks if we have them. If we don't have blocks, that's okay. We can just stay lifted with our hands at our hips, but we're going to keep our right leg straight this time. Some people like to tuck or untuck the back toe. You can decide what works for you. Your right sit bone is moving towards the back of the room. So long spine, no rounding through our back here. We really want to open up into our hamstring. So we lift, 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 and then fold with a long spine. It's okay if we can't connect down far. The things I want you to avoid are really rounding your nose to your knee. That's not what we're trying to do right here. And I don't want you to sit your hip back onto your heel. I want you to stay lifted. Go ahead and bend into your front knee. Remove your blocks off to the side. You're going to find a lift in your back knee and plant your back foot down at 45 degrees. So your toes are pointing towards the front left corner of your mat. A deep bend in your front knee. We're going to inhale up, warrior one. Same thing as in that kneeling pose. We're thinking about finding that good alignment in the hips. You'll hear different things with your feet. Some people are going to say that they want your front heel and your back heel in alignment. I find if you've had children or you've had hip injuries, it's a little easier to go a little wider. Some of us need to go wider in our hips. Just find what works for you. This is warrior one, Virabhadrasana 1. Inhale your hands up overhead. Maybe they connect. Maybe your gaze lifts. Find your limit for the day. Last inhale here. Exhale, airplane your arms, hinging forward, engage through your core. And then on the inhale, straighten through your front leg. We get ready for pyramid pose. Take your hands to your hips. Left hip moves forward, right hip moves back. Long spine. We fold, 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 fold. Finding the length, using our blocks if that feels good for us. And breathing into that right hamstring. Remove your blocks if you have them. Inhale all the way back up. Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1. Exhale, hands down to the mat, lifting your back heel. Inhale, step back to your plank, and then exhale, lower halfway or to your belly. Always option to press right back to down dog. We flow through that vinyasa. We inhale the left leg high to the sky, stacking the hips. Again, making sure that we're not moving all of our weight into our right hand, but we're staying equal. Really opening up through that left hip. From here to begin to paint those big circles with your left knee. And then switch directions. Leveling those hips off. Find an inhale. Exhale, step that foot between your hands. Drop your back knee. Your hands come up to your hips. Tucking that tailbone under. Finding that opening in the hip. And then when you're ready, your hands can lift. Breathing here. Begin to release your left arm down. Your right arm reaches up, 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 and over. And then we inhale back up to center. We're going to reach forward for those blocks if we're using them. And we're going to straighten through that front leg. So if I didn't have blocks right here, we'll straighten through the front leg, find length in the spine. I'm going to keep my hands on my hips, and I'm going to hinge forward without my blocks. Because if I were to reach for the ground, you see I round, right? So if I don't have blocks, I'm going to keep my hands on my hips. Breathing here. And then begin to shift forward out of that stretch. Hands come down to the mat and lift your back foot. Your back foot comes down to that 45-degree angle. And we inhale up, Virabhadrasana 1 on this side. Right hip pulls forward, left hip pulls back. So we're not opening to the side. We're facing the front. Maybe the hands connect. Maybe the gaze lifts. Find your limit for today. Keep your breath moving. Find an inhale. Exhale, airplane your arms, hinge forward. Inhale, come all the way back up, straighten through your front leg. Maybe bring your back foot in a little bit if you need to. We'll take our hands to our hips and we're going to hinge into our pyramid pose. Again, if I don't have blocks, I'm just going to keep my hands on my hips because if I reach my hands to the ground, I round my back and I lose the integrity of the pose. Core engaged, elbows squeezed together. Inhale, come all the way back up, warrior 1. And exhale, your hands down to the mat, lifting your back heel. Inhale, step back through a plank. Option to flow through that vinyasa. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. From here, inhale your right leg high to the sky. Exhale, step that foot between your hands. Keep your back knee lifted, back heel high. We inhale up, crescent lunge. Same as that kneeling position. We're tucking that tailbone under, finding depth in the front knee. Now, if you feel like it's hard for you to find that tuck in your tailbone, bend through your back knee to achieve it, and then work your back leg towards straight. Last inhale. Exhale, warrior two. Your hips are level. You have a deep bend in your front knee. Your back foot is parallel to the short edge of your mat. Your gaze is over your front middle finger. From here, begin to straighten through both legs and turn your toes out to 45 degrees towards the front corners, or the corners of your mat. Your hands are going to come to your hips or your heart, and you're going to shift back into your back leg, letting your front toes flex up. So you can go as far as feels good for you here. We're getting a stretch through the inner thigh. Now, if you have a block, you can use a block. If you have pretty open hips, you can start to sink all the way down. That's kind of up to your hips and how you feel. Ultimately coming with your hands to your heart center. Maybe one day that foot is actually on the ground. Your fingertips can come to the ground to support you. Your right toes are flexed and you're feeling a stretch in your inner thigh. But just go as far as feels good for you today. Your next inhale bursts you open to star pose, and then we're going to take our hands to our hips and turn our toes parallel to one another. Inhale, find length in our chest, and then exhale, we're going to fold forward, Prasarita Padottanasana. Wide-legged forward fold. Find a little more length in your spine, and then exhale, find a little more depth. A gentle bend in your knees is okay here. I'd rather your spine be long. So I'll turn so you can see it. We don't want to be rounded. We want to be long in our spine. So we're folding as far as we can with length in our spines. Good. One more inhale, find halfway lift. Exhale, hands capture your hips. Inhale, rise all the way back up. And then exhale, go ahead and turn forward. We're going to just walk our hands down to the mat. From there, walk your right foot up and out, drop your back knee, and we're going to go into runner's lunge. So you can use a block if you have it, or you can just stay lifted on your hands, but if you have a block and it feels good, you can drop down to the forearms. So your right foot for right now is firmly planted on the ground. You're still trying to squeeze your right knee in. Sometimes people like to open up, and if that feels good, you can do that. Breathing here, 2 more breaths. Now you can stay right here, or you can join me for a quad stretch. So it helps to take your hand onto a block if you have tight hips. Shift your weight back and bend into your left knee. Take your right hand back to capture your left foot, and then begin to shift forward. Push your foot into your hand into your foot, let your hip drop. Now maybe you're getting there and you're like, I can't get the foot. If you have that strap that we talked about, you can go ahead and lean back and loop it around your toes. And then pass that over to your right hand. And then you can come back and do that stretch with the strap. So finding what works for you. Maybe you're like, I'm just gonna go right back to runner's lunge. That's okay. Last round of breath. With control, gently release that foot. If you have the block, remove it out of the way. Plant your palms, and let's inhale back to down dog. Pedal your feet out. Option to take a vinyasa if you'd like. And then from here, let's inhale our left leg high to the sky. Exhale, step that foot between your hands. Inhale, crescent lunge. We'll be here for a few breaths. Find that alignment. Maybe you bend that back knee to help you. Breathing here. Last inhale. Exhale, warrior two. Hips are level, bending into the front knee, arms long. We'll straighten through the leg, turn the toes out to 45 degrees. Our hands come to our hips. we shift back into our surfer squat. So whether you stay lifted or you lower all the way down, find your limit that works for today. Breathing here, inner thigh. You're feeling the stretch. Left toes are pointed up and back towards you. Next inhale, bursts you open to star. And then from here, we're just going to turn to the front and walk our hands down to the mat. Walk that left foot out, drop the right knee. We'll come onto a block if that feels good for our runner's lunge. And breathe here. If you have really open hips, you can actually come right down to your forearms. Just see what feels good for you. And then if you wanted to take that quad stretch on this side, using your block or your strap if you need it, bending through the right leg, grabbing with the left hand, and then we drop the hips, push the foot into the hand into the foot. Releasing that foot if you have it, placing that block off to the side, and we'll step back, downward facing dog, pedal the feet out. From here, look forward, and then just walk your feet all the way up, coming to a seat. We'll lengthen our legs out in front of us. You notice I took one of my blocks and I placed it towards the back of my mat. If you have a block, go ahead and do that. If you don't, it's okay. And then we're gonna lower all the way to our back. So you can use your core to lower you, or you can use your arms, whatever feels good. We're gonna make our way to our backs. And when we get onto our backs, we're gonna bend our knees. From here, I want you to keep your right foot planted on the ground, lift your left up high. I want you to cross your left ankle up over your right thigh and push your left knee away. This might be enough of a stretch in the outer left hip. If you need more, you can lift up and grab behind the right thigh, pulling in. Flexing through the left toes, breathing here. If you'd like a little more hamstring intensity to it, you can straighten the right leg and reach up and over and grab behind the right calf. Find your limit, find your pose. From here, go ahead and release. Your arms are gonna come out to a T, so if your block's in the way, you just move it. You're gonna cross that left leg up and over just a little tighter, okay? And then from here, you're gonna lift your hips and move them over to your left. Let your legs fall to your right, and your gaze can fall to your left or stay center. Breathing here, feeling a stretch through the low back, through the left hip. 2 more breaths. Let's inhale, make our way back up to center. Bring the hips back to center, unravel the legs, bring them in towards our chest, and gently rock side to side. Planting your feet firmly on the ground. This time your left foot stays where it is, your right leg lifts. Cross your right ankle up and over your left thigh. Take your right hand, push your right knee away. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you need more and you want to bring your left thigh in. Grab behind the left thigh and give yourself a stretch. Releasing that stretch, you're going to cross your right leg tighter over your left, arms out to a T, scooch those hips over to the right a little bit and let them fall to the left. Gaze can fall to the right or stay center, and just breathe here. And then we'll inhale everything back up to center, bring our knees back into, our hips back into center, bring our knees into our chest and rock side to side. So we'll take a bridge pose. If you don't have a block, that's okay. We'll walk you through both options. Your arms are gonna come down long to your sides And then from here, tuck your tailbone, lift and lengthen one vertebra at a time. You can stay right here and breathe here, or if you have a block, remember your block can go on level 1, level 2, or level 3. I prefer level 2, and it comes right underneath my sacrum, so that bony part between the meat of both sides of your bum. And then from here, you can take your arms long or open your hands up towards the ceiling. You're gonna breathe here. If you're in a traditional bridge, just go ahead and stay right there. I'll let you know when to come down. If you're on the block, you can stay right here, or you can bring your right knee in towards your chest, pulling that in a little bit, and then extending your left leg long, feeling the stretch through the front of the left hip. Breathing here. If you're in a traditional bridge, find one more inhale, lift a little higher, and then exhale, lower all the way back down, bring your knees into your chest. If you're in a supported bridge with me and your left leg is extended, bring the left leg back in, plant the right leg down. This time bring the left leg in and then extend the right leg. If you were in a traditional bridge, you can take a second round here. Go ahead and tuck your tailbone under on an inhale and lift one vertebra at a time. Holding that bridge and ensuring to keep breathing. If you're with me in the supported bridge, go ahead and bring your right knee back in. Release your left. Arms come back down to the ground. You can stay right here in supported bridge, or you can extend both legs, maybe even arms up overhead, getting a whole front body stretch. 3 more breaths. Next inhale, begin to walk your feet back in. If you're in a traditional bridge, lift a little bit higher on that inhale. Everyone lift off of their blocks, and let's exhale and lower all the way together, one vertebra at a time. Bring your knees into your chest, giving yourself a little hug. Take your feet, plant them as wide as your mat, and let your knees fall together. Bring your left hand to your heart, your right hand to your belly, and just breathe here, providing a little release and relief to your sacrum, your SI joint. We'll bring our attention back, we'll bring our knees in towards our chest, lift our heads, giving ourselves a big hug, and we're gonna make our way into Shavasana. So if you have time here for Shavasana, just pause the video, maybe set an alarm on your phone for about 5 minutes, and enjoy the peace of Shavasana. If you're gonna stay with me, we'll stay here for about 10 breaths. So let everything go, your tension go, your face soften. If you're with me, begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, reach your arms up overhead, feeling length and space throughout your body. You'll bring your knees into your chest. If it's the evening, I recommend rolling to the left for more restorative, or if you're stressed, that's a great option. If it's the morning or you need more energy, roll to the right. Take a deep breath here. And then press yourself up through to a seat. We'll bring our hands to meet at heart center, a gentle tuck of our chin. Take a cleansing breath to close our class. Big inhale through your nose. And let any last tension go. Bring your hands to third eye center. Together we bow. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for this yoga flow. If you want to stay in touch and make sure you get a new notification every Tuesday when I drop a new video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell. Thank you. It means the world to me. And I'll see you next Tuesday with a new video.